Part 1. The current conflict. The U.S. government has dramatically increased its efforts to capture Venezuelan President Nicolás Maduro. Recently, the U.S. State Department and Department of Justice announced they are offering a reward of up to $50 million for information leading to his arrest. This is one of the biggest rewards ever offered under a U.S. program to catch drug lords, showing a strong push to make Maduro pay the price. The situation escalated on January 3, 2026, when U.S. forces launched a major military operation in Venezuela's capital, Caracas, and took President Maduro and his wife into custody. Former U.S. President Trump stated that America would administer Venezuela until a safe transition could happen. U.S. Attorney General Pam Bondi announced that Maduro and his wife have been charged in a U.S. federal court. The main charges: drugs and human rights. The U.S. accuses Maduro of being one of the world's biggest drug smugglers and a threat to U.S. security. They claim that for over 10 years, he led a group called the Cartel of the Suns, which smuggles drugs into the United States. This group was labeled a terrorist organization by the U.S. in July 2025, leading to strict financial penalties. Besides drugs, the U.S. Secretary of State listed what he calls the Maduro government's crimes. 1. Destroying democracy. The U.S. says Maduro cheated to win the 2024 election, stopping Venezuelans from choosing their leader fairly. 2. Human rights abuses. This includes illegal killings, torture, terrible prison conditions, and arresting people for no reason. 3. Stopping free speech, censoring the media, threatening journalists, and preventing peaceful protests. 4. Corruption. The government is accused of being deeply corrupt and not punishing officials who break the law. 5. Losing control, letting armed gangs commit violence, traffic people, and recruit child soldiers. To understand how Venezuela got here, we need to look back at its history of politics and oil money. Part 2. The rise of Hugo Chávez. In the 1960s, Venezuela became a democracy, which was rare in Latin America at the time. Things looked promising, but the democracy was weak. The government was inefficient and corrupt. A small group of wealthy people controlled the economy, while many others were poor. As these problems grew, people wanted a strong, charismatic leader for change. That leader was Hugo Chávez. Chávez was a military officer. In 1992, he tried to take over the government by force, claiming he wanted to fight corruption. The coup failed, and he was sent to prison. Ironically, this failure made him famous. The public was angry at the corrupt government, and when the sitting president was impeached shortly after, Chávez became a hero to many. In 1998, He ran for president with the simple slogan, "End corruption and poverty." To the poor and frustrated, he seemed like a savior. He won the election easily. Part 3. From Democracy to Control. At first, people thought even a bad president couldn't do too much damage in a democracy because laws and other branches of government would limit his power. Venezuela's democracy, however, was too fragile to stop a determined leader like Chávez. Once in power, Chávez quickly changed the rules. 1. He replaced lawmakers in the National Assembly with his own supporters. 2. He appointed judges who were loyal to him. 3. He changed the Constitution to give the president much more power and weaken the legislature. He had won by promising to fight corruption, but he did not create independent agencies to monitor it. Instead, corruption got worse. His own family became very wealthy. While Chavez famously called the U.S. government the devil, his mother bought a mansion in Florida. After he died, reports said she took millions of dollars, allegedly embezzled from a children's charity, to live in the U.S. Part 4. Economic Crisis and Legacy. Chavez had big ideas but little economic knowledge. His policy, called Bolivarianism, involved the government taking control of key industries, especially oil. Private companies were pushed out. The state-run oil company became bloated with unqualified political hires. When global oil prices were high, the country managed. But when oil prices crashed around 2010, the economy fell apart. Chavez made terrible decisions. 1. To pay bills, he printed massive amounts of money, causing hyperinflation, prices rising out of control. 2. He then tried to force stores to sell at low prices, which caused shortages. Store shelves went empty because companies couldn't produce goods without losing money. These policies created a national crisis. By 2013, Chavez died of cancer. He had already chosen his successor, Nicolás Maduro, his vice president. This was not a normal election, but a hand-picked transfer of power to continue Chávez's political project. Conclusion: the cycle of power. This story shows a common pattern. Leaders who seize too much power are rarely held in check. They often blame their country's problems on foreign enemies to distract their people. They silence critics to stay in power. In the end, their policies can ruin a country's economy, creating huge gaps between the rich and poor. Ordinary people struggle to afford food and medicine, while those in power live in luxury. Venezuela went from being one of the richest countries in Latin America to a nation in deep crisis, showing how important strong, fair institutions are for a country's future.